Hello, everyone, ladies and gentlemen, people of all stock watches. My name is Will, and with me, I have a new Josh, a cooler Josh. I have Josh Wilder from Survivor 44. Josh, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Will. Thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it. This is awesome.
I'm glad to hear. I do apologize because right before we went on air, I say how I try to ask the good questions, and so I already failed and am a giant hypocrite. But that's okay, Josh. First of
Uh,
all, do you still have tears in your eyes from the last episode? Because it was emotional. It was a lot of things. Um, how how are you feeling about it? You know?
my soul is crying. It was very emotional. And the fact of seeing Jeff cry, it just hits me right here. I'm all the emotions. But it was a good episode. I liked it. It was good.
It felt very campy. I feel in a way. I feel like it was a very. I feel like the results mattered less. As much as I love Bianca as a player, and as much as I thought she really had potential, because I thought she really had a lot of good potential. We had her trying to balance two warring sides. I thought she could have made the distance, but I think Bianca going doesn't really change a lot of other players' game plans. You know,
I
like
agree. Bianca didn't say much. I mean, we didn't get much
mhm,
of Bianca.
yeah, she was very under the radar, and this was her breakout episode, and it was also her elimination episode. And Ollie is also very excited to see Josh looking lovely as ever.
Hey, Ollie. Always love to see you. Now, one thing about Bianca, if we're going to go there, because I want to,
Well, yeah,
talk
we,
about it.
we, we can go there.
Uh, I would have played Chrissy and Say against each other even more. Like at Tribal, I would just like fuel the
Yep.
fire, put all the flames on them. Like, oh, she was talking shit about you, and she said this about you. Even at camp when they had that little tuft, I would have been planting seeds, like trying to get the heat off of me, and I would have not told Cedric. That's silly. Sorry, Bianca. No,
Yeah, I
girl.
feel I feel like she had. I mean, she even said in the confessional, "I just need to let the 2-2 vote ride." I don't think pitting them against each other at tribal was wise, because I think over time it becomes obvious that what Bianca is trying to do, and sometimes taking rid of the middle swing player can work out. Think of Survivor Amazon, right? With Chrissy getting voted out by Rob Cesternino.
Mhm.
And I feel like in a way Bianca became the new Christy in a way, but
Yeah.
I still wish we saw more of Bianca, if we're
Agreed.
going there as well. But yeah, no, I really think she had the potential, just not a lot. And so this episode, I felt like it was less about what was happening. I think it's more setting up the main characters and relationships going forward, right? Because I think there were three big moments that happened. Obviously, Joe and Ava. We'll get to Joe and Ava individually later on, but this was like the most breakout of breakout episodes. Like, this was a coronation episode and a half. We talk all the time about new era episodes, really featuring and shining a light on players. Like there's the Emily Flippin episode, right? The Bruce Peralt episode, the Kenzie episode. This was Joe and Ava episode. But there's also the Lagi, not Lagi, Siva 4. Is it Siva? The tribe with Kyle and Camilla and Shaheen and Joe.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. I
Um,
think that's what it is.
New era
Yeah. That was
names.
a great scene right there. We got
Mhm.
all the information except Kyle. We didn't really get much of Kyle's backstory, which is very interesting looking at the producer side of it. But
Yeah, I don't know. What do you think that could mean for Kyle? Like, do you think they are trying to hide him on purpose because maybe he's the winner, or is it he's the least important of the four, maybe the first one to go?
it could be. It could be both sides if you look at it. But yeah, we got really in-depth information about all three of their lives, but not so
Hmm.
much in Kyle. So it's like, are you going next or are you going far? Hmm.
Hmm. I love the Josh Wilder. It. You're the first person I've met who verbalizes the period at the end of the sentence, because usually I feel like that's the best way to describe the Josh Wilder thing. Also, Jay, I'm trying to remember all the New Era tribe names. It's hard. If I don't have a buff of it, I throw it out. But I mean, Josh, is there anything of note that you've been dying to talk about with Survivor 48 before we get into the players in particular? Is there anything that you're noticing that no one else is really talking about? Do you have any like crazy ideas of how the season can progress? Any crackpot theories, maybe?
Not really. I'm liking how it's kind of unfolding. There is a lot of duos, and I think that's everyone's talking about. It's a season of duos. I mean, you got Joe and Eva, you got Say and Mary kind of going against each other, and there's many others. I think there's like David and Shaheen. Very interesting. I just think that the duos, there's always a duo that's happening. You know, when you look back from other seasons, but you don't really know who they are until the end. And now I think we know about them so early on, like that's going to play something. And that's why it's really interesting going into the merge with these duos. And for us as fans, knowing about them, but also seeing it out there right before Tribal, knowing that Joe and Eva are basically working together. Yeah, they say it's human moment, but come on, I'm playing, I'm looking at it, okay, boom, I see you.
It's a very touching moment until you're on the island and you're starving and you realize, I feel like there's almost you recognize how crazy of a TV moment that is if you're on the mat, and you just know that they become instant fan favorites. And the target on Ava and Joe's back, especially Joe in particular, just went up tenfolds.
Correct. And plus he's like big, you know, he's going and you're going to merge. You know how that works going to merge. Usually the bigger, stronger players are the first to be looked at. But now with the new era, there's all this like, you know, mergatory and they switch the tribe. So who knows? It depends. But
yeah,
I see them targeted.
One player that no one's really seeing, though, we're going to get into the rankings now. Sadly, Avery had to leave last second, and Josh also was unavailable for the podcast. So it was just a Will West and Josh Wilder a journey right now. Two people who have both first and last names, you know. Full governments are being thrown out right now. But we have Chrissy in dead last, a player that me and Avery, and I believe Josh as well, Josh Pickle, not Josh Wilder. I don't want to speak for you, Josh. Don't really see a lot of longevity or win equity with. I think this was a really, really bad episode for Chrissy in particular. It felt like episode 3 on Vula, right? With all this talk about Say going out from Cedric. Cedric's like, Say it has to go. To me, Justin's my number 1, only for Cedric to flip. Chrissy kind of had the same thing where she was really butting heads with Say the entire episode, right? They are not getting along. They are at odds with each other constantly. But when pen comes to parchment, Chrissy is the one who voted Bianca with Cedric. And also revealed the information that Bianca didn't have a vote as Bianca was sobbing in front of Say. And I thought this was a really, really bad move on Chrissy's part. First of all, I think even using Bianca as the middle person, despite her not having a vote, I thought that was important to just use because obviously Say and Chrissy aren't working well together at all. I'd rather try to get someone from the middle. Second of all, I don't like the telling what happened in front of Bianca who's weeping. This might just be me being sensitive and saying that's not cool, but I think the game implications of that will matter. And I think people are going to be like, you know, Chrissy couldn't wait just a second to let Bianca get her torch enough and walk away. She had to sit there and reveal Bianca's whole strategy. It left a weird taste in my mouth.
And I don't know maliciously.
I don't think it was malicious. I think it was messy. And I think it's something that is going to get brought up down the line as well. And real quick, I have some comments from Jack Powell and Jay as well, Kimberly. But Josh, what do you think about Chrissy so far? Do you think that she's playing a very under the radar game? Do you think, you know, she has longevity? Do you think she has a lot of win equity? And how do you think of her tribal performance and her first tribal council?
So she has been playing an undercover game. We haven't gotten much of Chrissy up until kind of now. And I kind of agree with you how she did vote out the middle swing vote. I would have tried to taken that a little bit farther and taken Bianca with me and then try to get out Say. But I think we're going to learn next episode. I'm not completely sure, but I think Cedric may have gone to Chrissy and told her, hey, Bianca doesn't have a vote. Let's vote, you know, against Bianca. And then Cedric's, of course, he's running the tribe by doing that. You know, he has the most information. Just saying. But
how?
Yeah. He's doing it. He's doing it. But I think right now, Chrissy, I'm with you. She's on the bottom. Yep. She doesn't really have much right now.
Yeah. And I almost read a comment from Jay about Charity, thinking it was Chrissy. But what's Chrissy's cap here? Like, do you think she can make it to like final tribal council? Do you see her getting voted out around Mergatory? Do you see her making jury? Like, what's Chrissy's cap for you, Josh?
At this moment in time, I don't see her going far. Maybe like 2 or 3 more steps up, maybe. But who knows? Anything can happen. It's Survivor. There's a lot of variability. Yeah. There's a lot of twists and turns. So if she gets in line with the right people, she could stay under the radar and go to the end. You know what I mean? She could go to the end and, get 0 votes. But I mean, I don't really see much for her right now, to be honest. I'm gonna be honest. That's my opinion.
Please be honest. I mean, again, like with these rankings, I'm sure Chrissy seems like a really, really cool person as well. She's giving us Sue Hawk all over again in 2025. We didn't think that was possible. We didn't think that we'd hear that Midwestern accent ever again, but we have it. If nothing else, I want Chrissy to make it to jury and bring back Snakes and Rats.
Snakes and Rats, yes. We all know that. I get chills.
I feel like Josh, you loved like the theatrical moments, like Snakes and Rats. This episode, I feel like Final Tribal Council in general is like a very you kind of time. Am I right on the money? Is that your favorite like part of Survivor to watch?
It is, and then being out there and knowing how much you have to actually, think back and not having food, not having right sleep, and trying to recall what happened, 26 days ago and why you should be there. That's epic. And you're up against all these other players and talking and trying to fight for your life. It's so cool. That's why like the last episode when Kyle and Camilla did that shit, mind blown. Yeah. Loved it. Y'all did that.
Because if no one from that tribe makes it to Final Tribal Council, then that crazy move just kind of becomes Nolan's void if you really think about it. So
yeah, they're setting you up. It's all a setup,
Speaking of setup, I think Charity Nelms is set up to be a very, very early boot very, very soon. Word on the street is from Jay is Charity's going to be the Mergatory boot. And that's something that I've been seeing online as well. And Josh, what do you think about Charity being the Mergatory boot? Do you see her going before Chrissy? Or do you see something else in Charity?
Okay, so with Charity, I think they are setting her up to go very soon. I don't think she's going to be the Mergatory boot, to be honest. I don't. But she's being set up like, she's fake. She's a liar. Eva's already put it out there. You can see certain facial expressions. We haven't really got too much of her or who she's aligned with. You know what I mean? She's kind of struggling to get it through. She's trying to talk to Mitch, but no one's really with her. So I think it's going to be early. I'm not sure about Mergatory boot, but again, variable. We have no idea. Yeah. There's not much about it. I don't know.
I feel like her and Chrissy, they just have the least amount of screen time, confessionals, really importance to the story. I honestly, I know we're kind of jumping the gun here, but I do think New Vula is the tribe to watch. It almost feels like, honestly, this might be me sucking up, but it kind of feels like Survivor 44 with how Tika had the majority of the screen time, both before and after the swap and merge. I got that feeling with original Loggy as well, but especially now with New Vula, especially after this episode, because you still have Joe and Ava feels like extension of the Vula 4. And so all of the main characters are all one tribe. And that just kind of leaves Charity and Chrissy and honestly anyone on Logate and Siva to kind of fend for themselves and to claw for screen time.
It's true. Like the Bula 4, it's probably gonna be
probably, yeah. We can call it what it is. If it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck.
It's a duck.
But someone who's not fighting for screen time, someone I think we can actually really discuss about too. We're talking about Say now, who I have low, and I think a lot of people are in the same boat with Say, where it's not, is she the winner of Survivor 48? Because I think a lot of people agree that Say is not winning this game. She's very volatile of a player, and she's very reactionary. However, one thing I do think Say has that no one else really has is longevity. I think Say can make it a really far and deep run, and I think she's going to surpass a lot of people's expectations.
She's my top 4.
Your top 4? Really?
Yeah. And this is why I say that she has gotten this far, being her, being direct. Even the first episode, you would have thought like, oh, she's gone. Like, no.
Yeah.
But she's playing a game. She needs to be careful about what she says and who she kind of pisses off. Right now, she's gonna be going into merge. She needs to kind of get back Cedric. Because I feel like, he's been kind of like, okay, I need to kind of get away from you. But if she talks to the right people, I think she could go far, to be honest, because she has that endurance. She has that drive. She knows what she wants and she knows how to get there. Yeah. But there's some tact in doing that. And that's the social aspect. And that's what you got to be careful about when you're, not eating, not sleeping, your real true colors, how you feel about people come out and the little things start to bother you. So I think she's going, if someone bothers her, she's going to say something in that. So you got to be careful.
Yeah. And Jay saying that Say has a Q trajectory, I actually disagree. I think Say over time, this might be off the rails here. I think Say over time is going to adapt to the social game a lot better and easier. I also think over time, she's going to have more numbers and more people that she can go to. And I think more people will know what to expect of Say. I think, Mary linking up with Say is something very big for Say's game. And Chrissy ultimately didn't vote for Say despite beefing with her the entire game. And what we're seeing on paper isn't what we're actually seeing. I think Say's going to have the reverse Q, actually. Because Q started 46, very confidently, very strong. Like, he was a serious contender for a while. And then once the merge happens, he starts beefing with everyone, going crazy. But I think Say over time is almost going to get an Andy trajectory where she's going to come into her own and become a strong player and actually become a threat down the line. And I'm glad that you have a good opinion on Say and not just ranking her number 11 like me and Avery did.
I think she's going to do well if she gets with Mary, because that's another duo which I'm loving.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Because they have like different spectrum, like they're on the different sides. And I think with them two working together, they can pull different people from both sides and get to the end.
Yeah. And something too about the season that I have really appreciated is we're seeing why alliances are forming. And the alliances feel a lot realer, and I feel like there's a lot more stakes to be made, because obviously, like episode 1, episode 2, it's like, oh, I vibe with this person, I want to work with them. But like with Mary and Say, it's like we know why they're working together, and it's explained very well. Vula 4, we know why they're working together. California Girls, we know why they're working together. Joe and Ava, and so I think that's why I rank someone like Say a lot higher than Chrissy and Charity, because they don't really have any real connections outside of like Mitch. But even then, there's not a lot of weight to their alliances. And how do you approach Say's approach, or how do you assess Say's approach so far? Do you think she's playing a long-term game, or red flags that might lead to her downfall?
Just her attitude right now will lead to her downfall. And if she's too direct and she kind of pisses people off with that, but I think she's definitely playing a long-term game. If she can kind of pull that back and get her social strategy back together, like she did the first couple episodes, because she brought everybody back, then I think she'll be fine. And I think she will.
And speaking of being fine, we're talking Cedric now. Who is Cedric realistically? Because when you're seeing the episode week to week, right, and you're kind of buying the story Survivor's telling you, I think it's telling you a very different story than what's actually happening on the island. Because Cedric, to us, from what we've heard through other players, he's not really a player to take seriously. He gets respect from like Bianca, right? But he has beef with Say, and Say repeatedly is saying Cedric is not reliable of an ally. He's not trustworthy. He's lied before and will lie again. And I think Mary said the same thing too about Cedric last episode as well. Like, Cedric's stock on the narrative isn't that high. But when you're seeing what's happening on the island and you're seeing like the voting charts, Cedric voted for a third of the cast in the first week of Survivor, which is a crazy stat, by the way. And he's surviving the tribal councils, and I think he's more in control than Say ever was. I think he's been in control since episode 2. So
I think Cedric's playing a good. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I think he's playing a great game, to be honest. He's kind of sitting in the background and he's doing his part. He knows he's doing his part, but he's not getting his hands dirty. Do you know what I mean? Other people are doing that.
But I feel like, do you think he's able to stay under the radar and keep his hands clean forever though? Because I think the second notes get traded and people really give a critical eye to Cedric and how he's been maneuvering, I think he is kind of on a tower of cards right now, and I think it's getting toppled over soon.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. His cards are going to be shown, especially when you're on the same beach. Like, I mean, there's no hype, and people are going to start putting things together and like, okay, he said this to you, he said this to me, let's get him out. He's not, but I mean, when it comes to actual, doing stuff and getting his hands dirty and fingers being pointed at him, no one has seen him.
Yeah. And it's weird too, because his relationships aren't defined at all. Like we were saying with Charity and Chrissy, because the main connection he has right now is with Say, but the last 3 episodes have shown that they're not really working together, even though they are. Like, he's left her out of the vote right before the merge, which granted did help Say out a lot, because it's easy to just go back to Say and say, hey, Bianca didn't have a vote. We needed to flip. At the same time too, though, I don't think Say wouldn't have mind voting for Bianca, because I think it would have meant that Say is surviving the vote regardless. And so how can you describe their relationship? Because I'm kind of struggling to find like the main adjective or word, because like, are they close? Kind of, but are they really? Not really. It's kind of
it's like frenemy. It's rocky right now. Do you know what I mean? It's not solidified. It's gonna be telling once this next episode would merge or whatever happens next. Because if I was both of them, I would definitely keep my options open. I wouldn't talk shit about them to other people, because I would still keep that lifeline. I wouldn't burn any bridges. But I'd be like, you burned me twice, Cedric. I'm gonna keep you close. Keep your enemies closer than your friends. So I would keep him close, but I would take him out as soon as I could if I was Say. Do you know what I mean? Like, I would use him as long as I could, but I'm still keeping my eyes open. Rocky.
But at a certain point, does Cedric become a liability? Because it's like, I feel like it's good to use the shield, but Cedric is so unpredictable that what's stopping him from voting out Say again next round, next episode?
You're right. So Say might be throwing him under the bus when she gets there.
Yeah.
That would be a good idea. You're right. But, by the way, who has advantages in idols? Do you? I'm lost at that.
So Mitch still has a vote block. Ava has the idol.
She's the only one that has one.
Yep. And that's after Star, who we can actually talk about now, kind of revealed the whole Beware advantage, and kind of closed the chapter on Star's pre-merge game. And I think Star there's an ongoing story with Star that's not really being shown explicitly, but it's still there. Because we're kind of watching Star go from being on the outs to slowly integrating herself into the game. And I don't think that there's going to be a crazy big payoff, at Final Tribal Council. I don't think Star is going to win, but I do think we're getting a payoff soon. And maybe this was the payoff. But, her and Ava, they were frenemies for a minute. Actually, not even frenemies, just enemies. But now they're kind of rekindled their bond, and we saw the Loggy tribe overall still remained as like the vibe, let's have fun tribe, as they all solved the big wear advantage. Do you think that was smart of Star, or should she have kept that to herself?
I think, honestly, it was smart because they just kind of got together. She wasn't really involved with them. She needed something to bring herself into the tribe, and this was it. Now, do I think she should have gave that idol to Eva? Hell no. Absolutely not. However, now that she did, she needs to be up under Eva's butt. Like, hey girl, like, we good? Let's go talk. Like, how are you doing? She needs to be talking to her because, like, look, I gave you this. I gave you the idol. We're cool, right? And then get in with Joe from there as well. So she can integrate herself if she did that.
Yeah.
But god damn, I wish she wouldn't have given it to her. But that's the risk that you take to put yourself out there and try to include yourself. You know what I mean? That's the game.
Mm-hmm. But I do agree with Jay, though. If Star were to give Ava the idol, doing it publicly, like how she did it, was great. Because Ava is now the biggest just name and character and player on Survivor 48, like bar none. And I think people realize that in real time, and I don't think it's going to be shown explicitly, like people going, hey, Ava's kind of the main character, she's kind of the fan favorite, obviously she's going to be a huge threat and huge dirty threat, she has a good story. They're not going to say it, but it's going to be implied. They're going to call Ava a threat down the line. And I think giving the idol publicly to Ava like this puts a lot of heat on Ava. I also think, though, it puts just as much heat on Star because Star found the Beware advantage and kept onto that information for so long. Like,
true. That's true.
I don't know.
You're right. It's a double-edged sword.
Mm-hmm.
Both ways. Now with Eva, even talking about her autism and everything, she's getting some sympathy points. Love Eva, love her story. That was an amazing moment. But playing the game, thinking game only, you're talking about your story, your life and everything and autism, and that's great and that's sympathetic and I love that. And you're trying to get people to don't vote for me because of this. So maybe that's how she's counteracting that stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you don't want to vote for her. So if I'm playing from my standpoint, I had cancer, I had a kidney transplant, I've had all these things, but I didn't want to make it known because I knew that would have been like, okay, you have a story. If you get to the end, I'm going to vote you out.
Yeah. And so, but I feel like with Ava, though, it was very hard for her to like go through the game. Like, I feel like no matter what, that was getting brought out and revealed at a certain point. I also just think too, it getting revealed the way it did at the challenge, after Joe was giving her a big hug, I think that it just inflated the story even more. I don't blame Ava for opening up about it, but if it was like an episode 1 Matt chat, or where like they get to the challenge and Ava says it then, totally different than, after clutching out a challenge and getting hugged by your number 1 ally, who's a firefighter and like the nicest guy in Survivor history.
It's also putting a target on your back.
It's also putting not just target, just a bullseye.
Yes. And her having the idol now that they know it, you're right. When they get together, I'm going to say, guess who has the idol? Let's flush it.
Yeah. And I have a question too. Where are you in the, revealing your idols and advantages stance? Because every time anyone makes their advantages public information or they tell someone, there's a split crowd where it's either like you should never do it ever. If you're ever on Survivor, you gotta hold all your cards. And there's also other people who are like, sometimes you just have to give information to your allies. It's a good way to build trust. Where do you kind of fall in that line? Because I think it's good to tell people information sometimes, because I think it can bring people together and make you allies.
Well, I'm on a weird side of this because I lied awfully and
Yeah.
it blew up my face.
Don't. I didn't want to bring it up, Josh.
It still hurts, okay? But I do think it depends. I mean, there is no clear cut line like yes, you should, no, you shouldn't. It depends on the situation and what's going on. You know, if you're switching tribes and you have information that might help you further and get with that tribe and build longevity with them, then yes, maybe you should tell them, you know. But if you know you just got something and you just switch tribes and it's just you, maybe you should hold on to it or just tell one person that you really trust. You know what I mean? It depends. It depends on the situation.
Speaking of trauma, would I bring up hurt feelings if I wore a Tika buff for the rest of the podcast?
No, I'm all about Tika.
You're all about Tika? Thank God.
Yeah, absolutely. I love Tika. I love them all.
What about what about Ahsoka buff? I lied. It's not.
Who?
Exactly. Anywho, we're gonna go over to Mary now. I'm sorry for being a fanboy. It's just I'm talking to Josh Wilder here on StockWatch. Mary is strange to me because I think if she was the winner, right? If she won Survivor 48, she would have a lot more screen time describing her situation because she was very clearly the underdog, you know, of Woola. She was very clearly on the bottom and someone that we were supposed to root for. Ever since the swap, though, she kind of is now stuck in a position where like she's in the middle, kind of in a good spot, kind of just hanging in there. What do you make of that? Do you think that's notable?
Mary is just kind of in the middle, and that could be good for her. You know, fine, stay in the middle. You know, as long as it's not me. You know what I mean? But I mean, she's actually right there in the middle that I marked her to, because I'm not really sure.
Yeah, and do you think Mary was gloating after the challenge win? I forgot to mention that when we talked about Say and her challenge debrief.
I forgot about that. Yes. Now should Say have said anything? No. But I feel like Mary was directly talking to Say when she said that. You know how they do. So it's hilarious watching it as a fan, but being out there, I'm pissed too. Like, why are you putting that in my face? But I would also not comment on it because, again, everyone's watching and you're putting direct targets on your back, and I'm taking note. Oh, so you and Mary don't get along. I'm gonna put that in my back pocket, in my brain, and bring that up if I need to. So interesting.
Which also works out for Mary and Say if they wanted to go down the route of the let's work together and be secret allies, because no one's going to see that coming as well. I'm not saying that's intentional, but something notably about that too is that after the challenge, Say got all of the backlash from that, right? Everyone was talking like Say was out of line at the challenge. Say shouldn't have done that. It's not fun to lose, but Say, what were you doing? And no one was really saying anything about Mary, who was gloating, by the way. Like, and so I feel like people had to have been talking about Mary on the beaches, because they were talking about her at least, right? Like someone somewhere probably went, I kind of see where Sai's coming from, but we didn't see that, right? And do you think that was deliberate, or do you think that was just to pump up Say as a character even more?
I think it was deliberate. I mean, foreshadowing for sure. And the other tribes were definitely talking about Mary, like, ooh, okay, so she likes to gloat. Be careful about that. Everyone's talking about everybody. They just didn't air it for whatever reason.
The implications.
I think they're hyping up Say, because that's just her. Like, she is very. She's gonna say what she says, and how you feel is how you feel. But that's how I feel. So,
And we have a message from Jay. Do you think Mary could be a losing finalist?
I would hate that for her, but it's possible.
You want winner?
I don't think she's gonna win. I gotta be honest. No, but I it's a possibility. I can see it.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like Mary's just kind of stuck in limbo. It's very hard for her to like really break out, especially with the edit we've been getting from her. I'm sure she's doing more. I'm sure there's a lot more going on with Mary. It's just I feel like she was the main character of the first chapter, or one of the main characters of the first chapter, and now that story is kind of in the past, and now it's all about Ava, and no longer about Say and Mary and Kevin and Justin and Cedric.
Yeah, there's something about Mary. Who knows? Maybe she'll get with Say and they'll go through.
There's always something about Mary. Anywho, we're gonna take a quick ad break as well, real quick, Josh. From another Survivor alumni, Todd Herzog. And actually, Josh, I heard you have a collection of Josh Funko Pops in your closet. Is that true? False?
I have one from him.
I heard you had like hundreds.
Hundreds? No.
Hundreds.
No. Stay tuned. Hold on.
We're staying tuned.
I have just this one. Can you see it? The light's kind of weird. He made me this. Todd, you're awesome. Thank you so much. Can you see it? The white?
Yeah, actually, yeah. Oh, now it's even better. Now we see it.
He made me this. He's awesome. I mean, we've got the snake. We've got the fake idol. We've got the shield. I'd recommend getting a Todd Pop. Love you, Todd.
I don't have a Funko Pop, so instead I'm just going to play his ad real quick. We'll be right back.
What's up, guys? I'm Todd Herzog, the winner of Survivor China, and I am here with Survivor Now podcast, the best source for Survivor information, to show off what I do for a living. So I make custom Funko Pops. If you haven't seen or heard, you can check it out on Instagram at Todd's Pop Shop, or you can message me, toddspopshop@gmail.com, to order your own. And if you mention this podcast, you will get $10 off and a free torch. So it's pretty freaking awesome. I'm going to show you a few right now. We've got Troyzan here, Phil from The Amazing Race, JLP, host of Australian Survivor, and look, little Charlie. Anybody you could possibly imagine or want yourself playing an LRG or an ORG, or just with your loved one or family or pets or anything like that, shoot me a message. I'm happy to make it. You also have the chance to win a free custom pop if you sign up for Survivor Now Podcast Fantasy League. So it's pretty awesome. And it's fun. Like, who doesn't want to be a part of that? So yeah, hit me up, get your custom pops. It's great holiday gifts, great birthday gifts. We got a new season of Survivor right around the corner. I'm excited. I'm sure you're excited. Let's get this going.
I wish I got 10% off. $10 off.
You had to buy it?
I bought mine.
You bought yours?
Yeah, I wanted to support. I loved him.
That's fair. That's fair. I was gonna say, I feel like alumni would have their own discount. I feel like that's like friends and family. But
I know, right? Gosh, Todd.
Gosh. Well, maybe if you just did the bracketology, you would have gotten it for free. If you just win the lottery, you know.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Next time.
For Survivor 50. When you return, right? Yeah. Anywho, I want to talk to you about Mitch.
Mitch. Love Mitch.
First of all, love Mitch. Mitch is like genuinely one of the coolest guys ever, apparently. And I wish we saw more of Mitch, because every time he's on screen, he's always just like living his best life. And I love the Hawaiian shirts, by the way. Yeah. I think that is
amazing.
100%. Actually, I'm going to be, having a conversation with Mitch about fashion later on. Nice. Not Survivor related, just all about men's fashion. But do you see Mitch being more of a character where instead of a lot of strategy, we really hear about his experiences throughout the game and we hear more about his story? Or do you think he's going to become a strategist down the line where where the focus is on his game decisions? Because Mitch is kind of in the middle, I feel like, where he's not really 100% a game player, not 100% a character, but just kind of in his own little Mitch world.
Mm-hmm. They've been showing him as just a character. Who knows what really happens? I mean, the edit, whatever. But
Yeah.
I think he's going to rise to the occasion. I think he has more together than you think up there. You know what I mean? So I definitely think he's going to get far. Hell yeah, I like Mitch.
Yeah. Do you think he can be the winner, like a dark horse winner pick?
Yeah, I do. I can see him going to the end. I do. And I think he would be able to articulate his story very well. I know he has a speech issue, but I think he's going to do well. He has a story. He can definitely talk his way through. I met Mitch at the, I want to say 44 finale, and he was amazing. He was awesome. We had the best conversation, and I was so excited when I saw him on, and I think he's going to go far. I like him.
I also think, too, if he is the winner, this kind of feels like how he would get shown. Because I do think, to an extent, like, yes, I think he has it together. But part of it is, like, he's kind of having that Fabio, the good vibes kind of guy where he voted incorrectly. He voted against Say, who did stay. And, a lot of his allies are the people on the bottom. Like, him and Charity, they have a good bond. And that's, like, the only bond Charity has. But Mitch also seems like a very Mitch is also with Cedric, and Cedric is shown to not be the most reliable of characters despite running the game. But Mitch is, talked about very positively by everyone else. And even the people who say, I don't have the best relationship with Mitch, they still come around to Mitch. Like Chrissy is also working with Mitch, and Chrissy is also on the bottom. And I think Mitch is going to have a game where it's going to speak for itself. I think if Mitch does win, I don't really think it's going to be because of a final tribal council. I think it's more or less Mitch, won out at the very end, because Mitch is a challenge beast, lest us forget. And at the very end of the game, he can talk about his social bonds with people, about how he maneuvered and survived and played under the radar. And people are going to be like, we know Mitch's game. We don't need to hear more.
Exactly. It's giving me jam vibes for sure. Everyone likes him. Everyone knows him. He's not making any waves really. He did vote against Say, but him and Cedric had a really good conversation and they vibed. And that might be his yin to his yang, to get him to the end. So I think that's a great gameplay for him.
Especially because Cedric, again, controlling all the votes, but has none of the social capital. Mitch has a lot of the social capital, but he doesn't really have that killer instinct, So honestly, it could be like a good cop, bad cop kind of pairing, with Mitch being the good cop. That's another duo, and a duo that is shown to us, but also not.
Just a little touch.
But one thing I am curious about, though, is when we talked about Chrissy and Say and Bianca and Cedric, you mentioned that Cedric could have told Chrissy about the plan to vote Bianca. But why wouldn't Cedric tell Mitch and not Chrissy? Because Chrissy and Say, they are at odds with each other. Like, they are beefing. And so I feel like if I was Cedric, pulling in Mitch, who doesn't really have a lot of strong allies, and someone I, made a connection with, because I don't know what was shown on the island or what was actually happening between Mitch and Bianca, but we didn't see anything of them being tight or working together at all. And so I can't imagine they had a crazy bond out there. So why wasn't Mitch in on the plan to vote Bianca?
That's a good point. Maybe he didn't say anything to him. It was just too last minute. Maybe he never got a chance to talk to him. That's a good point. Like, why was it against Say? I don't know.
Especially if you tell Chrissy, because or Cedric could play like really smart and told Chrissy and not Mitch. That way he can wedge a gap between those two and make the plan seem like Chrissy's plan. And Mitch could be like, what the heck, Chrissy? Why did you vote, not with me? Why'd you lie? That was unnecessary. And that could pull Mitch closer with Cedric. I don't think that's intentional, but that could be the effect that happened.
Wow, that's strategy. That's a good effect. I can't think that far in, but yes, that's amazing. Jeez. I mean, maybe we'll see.
Maybe. I think of all too, like when the next episode starts and they're still on the beach and they're still not at Mergatory yet, I want Mitch to have the first confessional saying what just happened, because I think him more than anyone else had the worst result from tribal council, because you voted for someone who is known to not be the quietest of players, and they survived. Your two allies lied to you. So
yeah, he's got to do a lot. Not only does other people like Chrissy and Charity have to do a lot of talking, but for him, he's got to go and really feel out everybody. But I think he can. He has the social prowess for that.
Oh yeah. And we have a comment too from Jay asking if the theory was crackpot. And Josh, here on StockWatch, whenever we have like a crazy theory or idea, we play a little clip. Here it is. Just because, again, thinking that far ahead and assuming Cedric is playing the craziest game of all time is nothing short of crackpot.
I would love it if it was real and it was true, though. And he was like, yes, you nailed it.
If that happens, Josh, I want you to remember this podcast. I want you to remember me in my dumb green hat saying, hey, I called it. Especially if Cedric makes it to final tribal council. Let's talk Joe now. And I think the top 5 are the players who I would call the main characters of the season, all for different reasons, all shown in different lights, except for Say is the main character as well. But this was a huge episode for Joe, despite the fact that he actually had no confessionals whatsoever, which usually for New Era, if you go an episode without receiving a single confessional, that means you're not winning whatsoever, right? And that is something that has happened across the last 7 seasons. Do you think that Joe deliberately not getting a single confessional means something, or do you think he already had 2 huge moments in the episode between the Siva conversations and not Siva, the Vula conversations and the challenge?
That's a good point. Okay, so definitely if you don't have any confessionals, you're not going to win. That's New Era. Him being a bigger, stronger guy, we've kind of known in the past, and history repeats itself, that usually you're in trouble for possibly going home because no one wants to play against you, knowing that you have that physical variability. But with him, I think he's going to go far. He didn't get any confessionals because he's got more down the road.
Yeah. And of anyone to really break that chain, I feel like it would be Joe this season, just because we still had a background package of Joe on Vula. The only concern is, what is Joe's ceiling? Like, where's the line you draw for Joe? Because he is a huge threat after this episode, right? And as good of an episode as it is for Joe, I also feel like sometimes if you get like such a heroic ending or heroic episode, it means you're getting a downfall sooner rather than later, and they're trying to soak in that heroic storyline.
He's actually my like Mergatory boot.
Really?
Yeah. Just because if I was out there, I'm gonna be honest, like I'm just gonna get Joe out.
That's fair.
Sorry, like I can't beat you.
See, I agree to an extent. I don't see Mergatory. I think he makes it a little further because I think he's getting protected by the Vula 4. And I think he's the second one to go from the Vula 4, assuming they don't make the final 4, which I don't think they are.
Yeah, but if they do like that whole tribe switch and everything that Jeff loves to do and ruin people's lives, then he may not go. We'll see. We'll see. But I mean, it's just his physical prowess and his social game. Just watching him from this side, of course, right? If you're out there, you just kind of just see it, and I'm like, ooh, sorry, buddy. We'll talk after the show.
Yeah. Speaking of bigger guys, we have David, who had a very quiet episode, but David is also like the big guy, the Jonathan Young archetype, who him and
Loves
Joe
milk.
loves milk, which was a fun scene in a very emotionally driven episode, by the way.
Yeah.
That was another fun just moment. This honestly was one of my favorite episodes of all time for Survivor. Recency bias be damned. Pardon my French. But David, I think David and Joe kind of surprised me from preseason because you look at them, they both look like big guys, and you're expecting them both to kind of be as you would expect. But Joe, very emotional, very loving guy. And then David also doesn't seem as cocky as I thought he would be. He has his moments and like he kind of plays into that role, but there's a lot of vulnerability with David that he shares very early on. And I think between the last 2 episodes and then this episode being a lot more lighthearted for David and an episode where he's able to just kind of be goofy, I think David is the dark horse winner pick. I think he's someone that no one is really expecting to be a winner, but I think he's making all the right plays. And next episode there might be a strong people alliance. So Joe and David, they might be protected, and there might be an alliance big enough to where no matter how the game shakes out, people will be working together regardless. And I feel like, the strong guys might survive this season.
That'd be amazing. I mean, that'd be a different kind of perspective. But I agree with that. Like, I was very surprised by David's story and kind of what they're giving for David. I did expect the jock cockiness like they first portrayed in the first couple episodes. But yeah, we're getting a softer side of him. And I think he needs to continue that softer side and let everyone see the soft side and not play that macho look at me at this point in the game. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's a good move for him.
Not just that, I feel like it's not as vulnerable as Joe. I think Joe is the perfect shield for David right now because I feel like Joe is just a more extreme David. Joe just doesn't have like the macho-ness, but still has like the sternness, the leadership that we saw in the last few episodes. And David still has a lot of the upsides to Joe, but the downsides aren't as big, right? I don't think he's going to be a bigger threat than Joe based off of social game, physicality, story. And so I think that's a big benefit to David's game so far.
Who's in his alliance? Like, who is he working with?
He's go with Ava, as we saw.
Okay.
So by extension, Joe.
That's right.
Now.
Okay.
So I think that's another part of the Strong People Alliance. And I think if he side with Joe, then I think he's going to go back to like Camilla maybe and ditch Charity, because Camilla and Charity, they were at odds. David and Charity, they're at odds. And so I think, honestly, I see Charity being the mergatory boot or very early merge boot. And David's going to use that as a way to kind of make his new allies. Because I think David's the type of player, and we're setting it up for an alliance to form at the merge and not like a day one buddy, being ride or dies.
That's true.
Anywho, we're going to go over to Ava, who Avery has at number 3. I have number 5. But honestly, I kind of want to drop Ava down. I don't think she has the win equity. I think this is a great episode, but I don't think she's making it to the final tribal council.
No, I don't think either, because of what we know about her and what the other people know, like with having the idol, with having that alliance with Joe. I mean, I think she'll go far-ish, but not win.
I can see like final 5. I can see her making it like right to the end of the game. I think Ava just doesn't seem like the biggest competition threat. I think she can win something. I just think that compared to like David and Joe, even Mitch, she's not going to be seen as a threat. And so I think that can let her stay and she can kind of be under the radar in that sense. But I think if she touches Final Tribal Council, I think there's a good chance she could win.
It's the social game that I'm worried about for her.
Mm-hmm.
I think honestly she's physical. I think she really is. She's got
Yeah.
it. But the social game we'll see, because now that she has an idol, we'll see how she uses it to her advantage. And the way you kind of play the idol the best is knowing, having all the information and talking to the most people. And so we'll see. We'll see how that idol plays for her. If she plays it right, she could get all the way to the end.
Oh yeah. I want to know too, if she gets voted out, when she gets voted out. I wonder how that episode is going to look, because when like the big players and big characters get voted out, they get like a send off, Like I think of Emily Flippin all the time when I think of like the big, new era players and characters who get like that episode and then send off. I can think of Genevieve as well, or Andy as well. I'm very curious to how apparent an Ava boot's going to look at the start of the episode, if that makes sense, and how Survivor's going to edit it. Because at a certain point, I feel like they try to hide it less if it means it's good TV, if that makes sense.
No, it totally does, because after this episode, if and when she gets sent off, it's going to be big, like you're saying, for sure. It's going to be emotional. Absolutely. Yep. And I'm think if Joe's still there, I think it's going to be something big too. So it's going to be special.
The second one of them gets voted out, it's going to be like the second biggest episode of Survivor 48, no doubt. Between that and like the episode 30 Tribal Council, honestly, I think Survivor 48 is shaping up to be one of the best seasons of the new era, point blank and period. I know it's very early to say, recency bias be damned, but I think we are like, I think what you would want from Survivor, you are going to get from the season, no matter what you want. Like if you want big characters, you have you have Ava, you have a lot going on. You even have Thomas, right? If you want chaos, you have Vula. And if you want anything else, if you want Jeff Probst crying, you have this episode. So I'm very excited to see the continuation, especially, the second half of the season.
Oh yeah, it's getting good. You're right. Like they've done a great job with kind of building this up, and the 90-minute episodes and showing all of the emotions and what's going on in camp life and building up the storylines and showing us exactly what's going on, which I love. They're doing great.
Speaking of things I love and people I love and gameplay I love, we're talking Kyle now, who had a quiet episode, and that's concerning. Because I think that coming off the heels of such a crazy Tribal Council last episode, I would have wanted to hear from Kyle's personal background. But there's two paths that this could take. It's either Kyle's getting shielded, right? They want to hide Kyle and they don't want him to be an obvious winner and an obvious threat to win. And so they hide Kyle, let everyone else get screen time because Kyle's going to win. Or Kyle's the first person to go from the Vula Alliance and thus the least important. And that's why he didn't really get that background package this episode. Do you agree with one of those two takes, or is there something else I'm missing?
I totally agree with one of those two takes. He's my winner pick, to be honest. Like I think him and Camila are doing fantastic. That previous episode, I was standing and yelling at the TV because I was gagging. That was amazing. I think with them two being that duo and having, again, both sides of the spectrum, knowing their weaknesses and their strengths, if they keep going at that, they're going to go to the final three for sure. I love how he's playing.
Oh, yeah. And do you think he's like a threat? Like, do you think people are looking at him as a threat? Because I feel like on screen, from what we're seeing, he seems like such an obvious threat because he seems like a very, very lovely guy, very nice guy. We saw episode 1. He seems so cool, calm, collected throughout the entire season, despite being on the bottom last episode. Not on the bottom, but like not in the best position and having to play defensively with the idol. And I think, he could have an underdog-ish story. And then the formulation of the Vula 4. Do you think people are going to look at him as a threat down the line, or is he going to stay under the radar? Do you think?
No, he's going to be a threat as soon as they all hit the beach. I'm like, I mean, from personal knowledge, you're always being looked at, and especially when he has that physicality, when people know his social game, well, most people do, then they're going to be looking at him the whole time, and they might. I mean, his name's going to be constantly thrown out. I can just see it, but I think he's going to use it some way in his advantage and kind of maneuver through all of it. I can just see it. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see it.
I feel like the next episode is going to be the biggest shakeup, because there's so many big, just like strong, threatening players who are able to kind of glide through the early game just based off of Vula's losses and a lot of the gameplay and like the lost votes. And so now I feel like the game is getting real. And
this is when it starts, and they're setting it all up, and I'm living for it.
I'm just sad that Thomas and Bianca aren't there. I'm not gonna lie. I'm really sad about them going back to back.
Thomas would have added so much drama, and I would have loved to see him.
But don't be sad about the lack of drama, because we have Camilla, who's just as well bringing the drama. I wanted to put Camilla number 1, honestly. I think Camilla is one of my favorite players to watch so far, and it's always a toss-up between her and Shaheen, who's my number 1 personally. What do you think of Camilla's game so far? Because I feel like you have a lot of good things to say.
I love Camilla. She's been great. Even like when they were going through Kyle's bag, my gut is thinking like, oh shit, oh no, you're gonna blow up my game if you find it, and I would freaking out. But she's cool, calm, and collected when she needs to be. She says something when she needs to be. She thinks things through and talks to the right people. I mean, even when she was like breaking up, I forget what she said, but when she was like dropping hints about Thomas, like just saying little things to them, just obviously it's obvious she's trying to save herself, but she's thinking. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see her when everything merges and how she talks to people and how she kind of gets around how she got to where she was. Because looking at her, you'd be like, oh, let's vote her out. You know what I mean? Just this visual first appearance, first interpretation. I think she's going to go far, and I think she's top 2. She's behind Kyle.
I'm glad that across the board, Camilla is everyone's number 2 pick. My only fear with Camilla is that she loves to spread seeds, and I think it's easier when the tribes are small. Like, it's easy to lie on OG Siva when it's like you're lying to like Charity and Mitch and David. But when you're casting seeds on the entire tribe and trying to navigate through that, I think it's a lot trickier. And so I'm worried that Camilla is going to get caught eventually.
Yes, and I'd go see that. Absolutely. If you plant enough seeds, you're going to build a forest and you're going to get shrouded. So you're right. She needs to be careful who she says things to. And if she tries to buddy up with everybody, everyone's just going to look at you.
Yeah, but she also seems like a smart enough player to know when to create the seeds, because she's only doing it when she needs to, which is a great trait from Camilla as well. Because I hate when players try to play like unnecessarily, like they want to play flashy because they're like, oh, I'm on Survivor, I got to do this. Camilla knows when to hold and when to fold, and I think that's huge, and I think that's why I have her so high.
She's adaptable.
Oh yeah, and last but not least, I want to know your thoughts on Shaheen and his gameplay, because I feel like I'm kind of in the minority for saying he's so high and for having him in number 1 over Kyle, over Ava, over Joe, over Camilla. Where do you rank Shaheen personally?
He was shortly after merge, to be honest. Just because he's a part of that kind of bro group, if you will. I just kind of think something I'm looking at. That's all. I didn't rank him so high. I just feel like I'm getting I don't know. I don't have a lot of thoughts about Shaheen. I don't like the whole going through the bag thing. I know you're trying to do. You're looking for an idol. I just don't like that shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, God damn it, you're going through my stuff. But that put me on a bad taste on. But you're playing the game.
Mhm.
I don't know.
I mean, are you saying you would never dig through a bag to survive in Survivor?
Oh fuck yeah, I would. But I don't like it. And if you're gonna dig through the bag, go through everything.
Yeah, he got the worst of both worlds because he did it in front of Camilla, which is also insane to do. I feel like
cocky.
That is cocky. Even if you knew for a fact that they weren't tight going into the merge, like you have to understand that the numbers are 3-2, and that's tight. And the smallest thing could have went awry. But
exactly.
I do think that the last episode was a really bad episode for Shaheen, but that's also something that we see a lot. I actually mention all the time that, Jam had that negativity when he was beefing with you in the early days of 44, and that was his negativity for the season, and then he became the winner, right? Erica also had that negativity where the tribe wanted to throw the voter out. She ended up winning. Marianne, got flamed early game. Gabler, his whole game was negative. And I think that was Shaheen's big negativity. And this was a really, really good episode for him this episode. I think it was textbook. I think he opened the episode as well. Yeah, he started the episode after being blindsided last episode, which is very textbook new era editing style. Also had the first intro package or background package as well, and that kind of kickstarted the idea of the Vula 4 forming, and it kind of forgave a lot of his sloppy gameplay from the last episode. And so I disagree with what I'm seeing in the episodes, but I can't help but notice how they're showing Shaheen, and something about it just to me feels very winner-esque. And so I think that's why I rank him so high. Even though I think if I'm judging based off of what I'm seeing and how they're playing, I think Kyle and Camilla are playing a better game than Shaheen, if that makes sense.
We'll see how it shakes out when we get to, like, I don't know, final 8 or something like that.
Yeah. Do you think Shaheen can make final 8, or do you think that he's going to be just seen as a bro threat?
We'll see. It's all about the social time at this point, I think. As soon as you all hit the same beats, it's social game. Bam, go.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, the first hour, even maybe short of 30 minutes of the merge, and when you first start meeting people, is what dictates what's going to go from there. Do you know what I mean? Like, just first impressions are everything, and then how you're saying what you're saying and who's communicating the information. So we'll see. I just don't know. I don't have much say on Shaheen right now.
That's fair. Who do you think is playing or going to have the best social game going into the merge? Might I ask?
Going in?
Yeah. Like
Mitch.
Yeah.
Mitch, and I would say Eva, just because of Eva and Joe, because of what happened. There are definitely going to be people, they want to talk to them. Do you know what I mean? Like, hey, like, oh my God, that's so cool, blah, blah. But I think Mitch is going to have the most, just because of what we've been shown.
Yeah, I think Mitch and David. I think David just is, he has too many like mutual friends, I think, or he's friends with people who have a lot of friends. And so I think Joe and Ava, to a point, they'll make a lot of friends early merge, but they're going to get looked at as threats, within days. They're already getting viewed as big threats now, I feel. And so I think people are less afraid to throw out their names because they're such big threats, that I think David is kind of, again, reaping the benefits. I also think Kyle gets along great with everyone. There was a scene a while ago where him and David were talking. David's like, I live in a trailer park in front of my dad's house. Kyle kind of does a good job of matching people's energies and matching how they communicate. Because Kyle's like, hell yeah, dog. That sounds great. Trying to use how David would describe that. And while it didn't work out for Kyle, and because, you know, kind of misread that, and David was like, no, it's not that cool. Kyle is still playing that social game. And that was a very subtle thing that I always mention and bring up now. It makes me feel smart.
It's huge, though. It's huge being out there. If you know how to do that, you know, being hungry, not sleeping, and still having that vibe, even if you don't like somebody, being able to like click with them on some kind of level.
Yep.
That's more than half the battle.
Yeah. And I think the last question too is, you know, who's your dark horse pick? Who is someone who we should really watch out for? Player that on paper might not have the most going on, but can really pull it off and make it to the very end.
Say.
I like that answer, actually.
I'm saying say, and it's gonna be up to her because she has it. She has the it factor. It's just she needs to pull back certain things when she needs to pull back and keep things under tight lip when the time calls for it, and that's gonna be hard. But I think if she does, she's a dark horse. How about you?
I think of all the dark horses, I feel like I'm looking at my list. I think I feel like David's my dark horse. If not David, I think Mary. Is Mary a dark horse even?
I think she can be.
Is David a dark horse?
Maybe.
I think Mitch as well. But Mitch is like shown. I feel like Mitch is such an obvious dark horse pick from what we're seeing. I don't know. Labels are weird and boring and dumb anyways. Who needs them?
But I mean, in this new era, it's so hard to say because there's so many variabilities that are going on. So I don't know. And if he does the whole mergatory thing, that makes it even harder. But we'll see what Jeff does.
Yeah. Anywho, I think that's kind of it for episode 5 of Survivor 48. Is there anything else you wanted to like bring up? Anything that we kind of missed, or you know, any crackpot crazy theories, Josh, that you want to share?
God, no, I think we hit them all. I mean, damn, it was a great episode.
Oh yeah,
it's leading up to something great.
Would you say it's one of the best episodes of New Era?
It's up there. Yeah,
it's up there
for sure. For sure. Yes. They did a good job of setting everything up, and we know who's working with who, and things can go really, really bad, and things can go really, really good, depending on what they do. So I'm excited for next week.
So am I. You can catch us, I think, in 40 minutes. Survivor Australia is doing their recap episode as well. Josh will not be there, but have you been watching Survivor Australia, Josh?
No, I haven't. Everyone says I should start watching it, and I'm like, I know. I haven't watched it since King George. I saw like that episode, but I haven't been like tuning in. It's hard.
I've been the same. It's too many episodes for me to watch. It's like I treat it like Big Brother. You know, it's hard.
But damn, they are cutthroat. What, they go like 42 days or some shit?
Yeah.
Oh my god, I don't know if I could do that. And like their challenges too are so much more physical.
Oh yeah.
Holy crap. Like I would break something. Get me out of here. Medical.
It's like if Survivor kept the path of like the early days, the original seasons, you know.
Yes.
Which it's really cool to watch. I've only seen one season, admittedly, as well. I'm just too busy to you know, do the whole Australian Survivor.
Same. I just need to do like a week staycation and just binge watch Australia.
Oh,
I would love that. That would be the perfect vacay for me, actually. I might have to just do
it. I mean, I'm on a mini staycation myself right now. I'm off until Wednesday, so I might just watch all of Survivor Australia.
Do it, dude. Pick a comfy couch and get some popcorn and just go to town, man.
Sounds like a plan, honestly. But then there's also tomorrow, I think 3 p.m. Eastern, for Got Something For You as well, and Survivor Social, as well as happening on Sunday night as well. And then Wednesday, 7 p.m., 6 p.m. is the pre-show, and then 10 o'clock or 9:30, 10 o'clock is the post-show recap as well. And then next week we're doing more Survivor StockWatch. Josh, again, thank you for coming on. Pleasure talking to you, man. Open
Thanks
invitation too, of course. Also, I wanted to point out you added me as a friend on Facebook, and I thank you for that.
You're welcome. I've
So
been getting a lot of friend requests and stuff on Facebook, and I don't use a lot of Facebook, but I'm like, you know what? I have all these friend requests on my friend game, so of course.
Yeah, I add Survivor players thinking they won't add me back, and then I added you. It was pending for a while, and then it was like 4 a.m. It was like, Josh Wilder accepted your friend request, and I'm like, how's that guy up? What's happening? It's not
Who knows?
Maybe,
I get up really early, so
who knows? Who knows? But yeah, hope you have a wonderful night, everyone. Thanks for tuning in, and
Will, thanks for having me. See you next
week. Of course,
week.
Josh.